All right. You tell me when you're ready.
I mean, I don't know. I hope we're recording and everything. I really hope this works.
Me too. We'll see. It's an experiment.
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome again to Not for Sunday Mornings. This is
Not Sunday morning.
It's not Sunday morning for sure. And it is our third season of doing a podcast based on our summer series.
Yep.
And so this summer series that we have is Questions Kids Ask.
It is.
So if you are one of our two people we know that watch regularly, welcome back.
Two people?
Well, they're in the same house, so it's one view, but it's two people.
Oh, yeah, it's something. It's something.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, it is good. So, well, welcome back. My name's Chris, and if this is your first time watching, and this is Steve, and so yeah, let's start talking.
We got a new studio.
We do. Yep, new look to the studio this time.
Yeah, we got some cool signs. We got toys. You brought toys.
Brought toys. You brought a cookie jar that's hiding behind me.
Yeah, McDonald's.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so we're excited. We are excited. We're grateful to get to do this together. And
yeah, always love it.
All we're doing, we're just continuing the conversation from Sunday. If you didn't get a chance to watch the sermon yet or listen to the sermon yet, go and do that. You can find it everywhere, I think. And yeah, like Chris said, we're doing a series on the questions kids ask.
Yeah, so this was interesting because when we were building this series and looking at the questions that kids ask, they're interesting questions, and I think one thing that you pointed out in the sermon was kids ask the question, but there's just bigger and deeper meanings behind those questions.
Yeah, I think so. I think kids make it real simple, but really beneath that simplicity is an actual, deep, difficult question.
There were, yeah. So as we were trying to put them together and look at them, we really came up with some deep themes that I really think adults dig into or hold adults back. And that's really the heart behind this, is trying to help adults to really understand, it's okay to ask questions, number one, and it's okay to not have a full answer. And I think this week's really not having a full answer is a key takeaway from your message when we looked at it. But yeah, so I guess anything come up after the service, after the message? Anyone say stuff to you or anything?
Oh yeah, I had a few comments. One very wonderful lady said that now she has more questions than when she started with. So that's good though. That's good. That's good. Yeah. And then a friend too came up and he shared a story that he had heard David Platt, who's another minister, share. And so I wrote it down because it's really remarkable. He was speaking to some Muslims on a mission trip, and he said, when I fell in love with my wife, did I send her someone else to tell her I loved her? Did I send someone else to propose marriage? And he said, they answered, no, in matters of love, one must go himself, not send somebody else. I thought how perfect that is with what Christ and God has done for us. He sent his son.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just really, really special. And I wish I would have learned that earlier in the week. It probably would have been in the sermon, but I'm glad now to get to share that. And it really was just I appreciate that.
I like that. Yeah, that's profound.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I thought, it was interesting. Just the idea that how we picture God really should affect everything about us. And God is so vast, it's hard to imagine every aspect of him at every point. And so I know when we do picture God, we tend to dwell on certain characteristics of his more so than others. It's tough because it minimizes who he really is and what he really is. And so, but yeah, I thought it was kind of an interesting, thing that you brought into there. Because it's important. It's important how we envision God. I mean, literally a whole branch of study called theology is based on that, is picturing that.
Yeah.
So, I liked your quote from Augustine.
That was pretty cool.
It is. I think it's. I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Oh, just okay. So the quote, if you haven't listened and chose not to follow directions to go back and listen, was, "If you can comprehend it, it's not God."
Yeah.
Right. So like there, there's so much to that because again, it goes back to God's so vast, it's almost impossible. And I know for me personally, like I have given up trying to comprehend like the Trinity. Like I just it's beyond my knowledge and but it doesn't mean that I stop believing in it. It doesn't mean that just because I can't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
like, I think as a scientist or a person with a science background, for me, my job is to understand and comprehend
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And there are points where you just run into a wall and it's like, well, what's the end? What's the next picture,
Yeah.
that comes in and you can't get that. You don't just abandon it because of that. I think some people do. I think people, when they can't comprehend things, they just walk away from it.
Yeah.
But to understand, like, it's okay. It's okay that you don't comprehend, you don't understand the full picture of what God is, because if we can get the small little glimpse and picture and pieces, we can carry on with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's big enough.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what'd you leave out?
Oh yeah.
Or did you have more to put in?
I left a few things out. I think I was trying very hard. I don't think I did a great job of trying to express the hugeness of God that is seen in the Old Testament versus the flesh of the New Testament. And so I think you see this earlier. You just mentioned how big God is, so big. It is so bigger than we can understand. Oh, yes. But then also he comes in the form of a baby that has to be held and touched, and so there's this nearness and closeness to this big God. And I kind of my hope was to for the people to be overwhelmed with the largeness of God, but then also for that to then bring them into the closeness of God and be like that's so amazing that God would come close. One of the things I didn't talk about, I tried. Sometimes I get going on like picking words out, and it gets a little. I feel like it's like a little showy, and it's really doesn't benefit anybody but me.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't. I think sometimes it's kind of jerky. But a word I did leave out was the word dwell, where he says God dwelled with us, or moved into the neighborhood is another way it's written.
Yeah.
And that word is skino, and it's a great word. It's only 5 times in the Bible mentioned here, and then 4 times in Revelation, which we're going to talk about Revelation next week. But that's fine. But it's that idea of that God. He moved into the neighborhood. He came in, and the craziness of that is like the Greeks would have seen God as like the Zeus, all powerful, huge, far away, and even the Jewish faith, Yahweh, would never come near to people. I mean, it was always out there, never here. I mean, go to the temple. And so the fact that this God now dwells among us, and it's really, really, I think, beautiful and wild. And there's a whole nother string. Again, my mind's kind of running ADD and stuff, but where Jesus is getting ready to leave, and then he says, Thomas, he says, I'm the way, the truth, and life. And no one comes to the Father, And then they go back and forth, and he's like, well, how do we know the way? And then Jesus is like, you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And he does this whole thing, and then he ends up going into the whole, when he leaves, the Holy Spirit's going to come and dwell in us. Again, different word, but same idea that now God dwelled in the temple, now he dwells in this temple. And it's just I think a fun little thing. I also didn't get to dig too far on Paul. I just threw that line in there about where Paul in Colossians, he says, Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God. Again, real cleverly written. And there's a whole section Paul expounds that on. And I didn't. He had time, and I just felt it was going to go sideways, so I didn't do any of that either. But otherwise, not too much. I mean, it's a difficult. This series is really difficult for me because I think I love questions. But I'm okay with the questions not being answered, and I hope the people are as well, because a lot of these questions are not cut and dry, and so I hope that helps people and doesn't hurt people. But
yeah, I mean, I think you alluded to that, or plainly stated it, and when you preached about that there's going to be answers that we don't have, because we just don't know, and it's okay, like. It goes back to what's the definition of faith, right?
Yeah.
Like it's that unseen aspect, but
well, that was now that you said that, I'm thinking of something else I left out. I did have a whole section on conspiracy theories, and honestly, I wrote I probably had, I don't know, 1,500 words. I had a whole opening that I killed at the end because it was like going down a road of flat Earth and not. And it was just, I was having some fun with conspiracy theories, but I also then I didn't want people in the audience to. I didn't want to say a conspiracy theory that they thought was real, and I was afraid I was.
Yeah, you don't know nowadays.
No,
Like,
I mean, who
you know,
knows? But the idea behind, a whole heart behind that was because when we don't know something, our brains don't work that way. We have to figure it out, and so we create these elaborate things because we have to know. And so you see it with any kind of tragedy. I think of Charlie Kirk, guy getting shot, and immediately there's this whole other side of it of like, well, and you're not going into the Epstein stuff, but I mean, any kind of big thing, there's always this undercurrent of like, well, the truth is really this, and sometimes it's true. We saw that with COVID, where there's some stuff that was and wasn't, but often it's just our minds trying to make sense of something we don't understand.
To rationalize for 100%.
And where that gets us a little bit in trouble, it can get us in trouble is when it comes to, again, a God and our view of God. Because he's so vast, because he's so big, we have to put him in a box where it's like, well, you have to behave like this, because if you can behave like this, then I can manage you. So if I know you're a police officer, sure, that might be bad, good, whatever, but then I can manage you. But when you're out of that box and all of a sudden now, oh Lordy, what do I do? What do I do with this unknown? It messes with our heads. And so that's where I think we get into a lot of the black and white thinking, which we're going to talk about hopefully a little bit, the grace and truth side of stuff. So I would say, sorry, that when you said that, I ripped that whole thing out. It was fun for me to write it, but
yeah, I'm sure. Like,
but then
looking into that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I do that myself. I don't understand something, I've got to write. I create a story, right? I create a narrative that, just because I need to feel like I'm in some kind of control. And so.
Yeah, and I think because I know one of the questions coming up probably will address that when why do bad things happen? I think is one of our questions, right? And we do tell this narrative, we do tell this story, and our worldview ultimately, I guess, determines how we fall into how we answer and expound upon those ideas and stuff like that. So. And so, like, when we say, like, trying to understand God's the bigger picture, and if we keep him in a small, like, box, like you said, it does change our worldview. When we don't, when like you said, because you said like a policeman or Santa Claus even, and
No, that's what Jesus comes in. That is the unfortunate part of us being so far removed from that culture is we know the whole story, and so it's easy to rip on the Pharisees and the Sadducees and but like what are you talking about? This is so insane.
Yep.
God is this, and this is who God is, and he has shown himself to be this. And then all of a sudden Jesus shows up and like, God is really this. And of course it's a mess, and of course it's hard, and it's conflict. He costs him his life, right? I mean, like, again, that's where I think, but I also think as humans we still do that, where we put God in these little boxes because we can manage him then. And it's a lot easier.
Well, and it's funny because you go back even to the Hebrews when they left Egypt, right?
Yeah.
And what's the first thing they do is they build a golden calf idol, right?
Yeah.
And we look at it because, again, like you said, we look at it from a future perspective and we don't really understand it. But to them, they were trying to give a visualization of what they thought God was.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously God's going to be angry about it, and one of the reasons why he makes a commandment of not to make graven images of him is because it belittles who he is. Like it like you said, puts him in this tiny little box, and he's so vast he can't even do that. And so to make an image of him even is so far away from
Speaking of the golden calf, I don't know if I get me in trouble. I don't care. Did you see? Trump has a gold statue of himself down in.
I did not see that.
It's like this 25-foot gold statue.
He didn't make it, did he?
So, of course, he probably says he did. See, somebody made it, but then this pastor was there dedicating it. And like, dude, he was getting raked over the coals online. Sure. It was so awesome. Like, it cannot be any more on the nose. But
anyway,
pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whatever. I don't care about that. It was more funny to. Like, here's a golden statue
of someone.
Anyway, so I won't be commissioning a golden statue.
I'm glad because we as elders won't approve it. So, all right. Well, is there some things you let me push back on, or at least question a little bit more on?
What?
All right,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, we should tell people we have segments.
We're
and
trying
this segment
segments.
is, can I push back? Hey, Chris is going to push back on
Try to
something.
push
I have
back.
no idea what he's going to say. We had not
This
practiced.
is a struggle because
I'm perfect. You can't push back.
It rarely are there things where I'm like, oh, I totally disagree with that, and part of that's because when you come up with something that you're like, I don't know about this, you usually text me or call me and say, hey, can I do this? And so we normally avoid those things early on. You never really, I think sometimes it just comes down more to wording between us than it does intent, because I don't ever feel like I've ever said, no, you could definitely not say that, or that is heretical to say.
Right.
So I always trust you in that. But I think for some people who maybe don't study the Bible as much as we do, or spend time in there, might have some of these questions here. And so one I have is, why you spent a lot of time in Genesis on the question of who is God. Why is it that you felt that was important? I mean, there's a lot of Old Testament that we can pull and look and see who God is, right? What was your rationale on Genesis?
I don't know. I think for me that was the clearest and cleanest picture, and you get it like in one verse. I mean, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's everything in one, and very succinctly. Like, he is before. For him to create that means he must be before that. And it says he created heavens and the earth, so that's everything. So he created everything. So that's kind of puts as far as those characteristics of God, that he was before and he birthed everything. That one verse for me made it very clear and clean. And so whenever I try to speak, I always try to make it as clear as possible. I don't do that really well often sometimes, but I try to like really drill down and make it clear. I guess you could go to Old Testament. I mean, where would you go?
I mean, I don't know. That's the problem, is like as we read through the Old Testament, and that's why I think
more of that would require context, because if I were to pull up like God on Mount Sinai or something and killing a bunch of people, I mean, we could pull on some of these things and the fire and all that, but then it would require a whole lot more context of setting up how he got in that spot, why we got in that spot. You know what I mean? Like versus this is like a clean slate. Okay. There's nothing. Here he is. And so for me, there was a moment I think where I said, hey, let's imagine like there's no universe, no star, and like just imagine the darkness and like. And I think that's an opportunity where we can do our best to try to like go to nothing. And so for me, it was that. And then honestly, the biggest reason is because John begins in the beginning, and then I wanted to show Genesis in the beginning. And if you're super nerdy and you like text on a screen, when I put the word in the beginning, it stayed in the same spot on the screen for when John came up and when Genesis came up. Nobody else noticed that. That might have taken me way too long to do, but I did it. And I think it was very special for me, even though I didn't even look at it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So here's my next one. If Jesus is the perfect revelation of God, right, does this make the Old Testament less important?
No, not at all, because Jesus says he come to fulfill that, right? And so, not at all. No, I don't think so at all. No, not at all, not at all. I think I think when you put the two together, you see this God that is before and everything came from, and it is so big and so overwhelming, and so far away, even though not. You know what I mean? So then, for that grandness of God to then be harnessed and focused into one person, and to be focused to come as us, I think that shows even more so the majesty and greatness of God. And so, of course, I don't think, no, not at all, not at all. I think the Old Testament is extremely important. I think Andy Stanley had a thing a while ago about Old Testament doesn't matter, and I disagree completely with that. Yeah, I think the Old Testament is everything. It's everything. You know?
Yeah, I mean, again, my pushbacks aren't necessarily where I disagree with you.
I wish you would. I wish we'd get into it. Like, it's boring. Like,
well, it is boring because I agree with you 100%. Like, I think it wasn't until like probably COVID-ish time where really I probably held a viewpoint of the Old Testament's not that important.
Yeah.
And I think sometime around COVID, and I'll be honest, it probably was Tim Mackey that really changed my viewpoint on that. But the importance of the Old Testament and why it is much more valuable than I think what we've. I think in your and mine history of the church, I don't think we spent a lot of time in there. I think as kids we learned the stories, right? But I don't think as we grew up, I don't think preachers spend enough time in the Old Testament.
Well, I think some do. I think some do when they want to point to, because I often hear, we're going to talk about grace and truth in a minute. You hear the truth people say they want the God of the Old Testament. They want the God that smites people and brings the hammer. And look at that God who sends, who rains down fire on Sodom and Gomorrah, and then that God who judges sin with an iron fist. And there's this part of fear-based preaching, fear-based leading. Again, if you think about the putting God in the box, that's super clean, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
If God is this, then I know, boy, I better stay in line, because if not, I'm gonna die.
Right.
And then Jesus comes and he picks up a woman who committed adultery, and he
says, "Go and sin no more."
Yeah, he does things that just go way outside the box. He eats with people that we shouldn't be anywhere. And again, because God is like this, and so that sets up a world where now I'm not going to be around people that are sinful, because I might get sinful. I might become like that. That's what happens. So then Christ comes and he has a party with sinful people. Oh, God can't do that. Yep. Again, it breaks our paradigm. And so, I don't know where we're at with that. I'm sorry, I got a little lost.
No, it's fine. I think it's fair. Like, you're right that some used it as a hammer to drive their way, but not to teach the truths that are in
the
there.
fullness of God. Yeah,
for sure. Can we really know God?
Well, what do you mean by that?
I mean, can we really know God? Like, I mean, I know we can know who God or about God, but can we know God fully? I just want to see how you answer that question.
What do you mean? I don't know. That's a dumb question.
It's a dumb question.
What do you mean? No, I don't know what you mean by that. Help me explain that question. So know God fully? What do you mean?
Yeah, so like we said, he's incomprehensible, right?
Sure.
So can we fully know him if he's an incomprehensible being?
Well, I mean, I think, again, I guess that's a very layered question, because I would say, I mean, if you know Jesus, you know God, right? Jesus says that.
Okay.
So can we know Jesus? Yes, we can know Jesus. We can study Jesus. We can read his word. We can see it. We can see how he lived. We historically know that is who, and we believe that is, and historically it backs up who he is, and then we can do all that other stuff to learn about Jesus. So yes, I think we can know God in that aspect. So yeah, I think we could. Now, I don't know if you mean fully know God, like what does he look like or anything, but that's kind of a weird, like, and so I don't know.
No, I think you answered the question the way I was thinking, like, and I kind of answered the part too where we may not fully comprehend who he is or what he is, but we can know him.
Yeah.
And I think you pointed to it definitely in the sermon too, that, by knowing Christ, we can know who God is and go from there.
I hope so. I hope,
I wouldn't necessarily disagree. Maybe some people do disagree. There's some stuff that I've been reading historically where it's like people actually thought or still think some things, and I'm like, I don't understand how that's a thought process. And
people think things?
Well, I mean, specific ideas, like so to give my first sermon I'm preaching on in this series is on the resurrection.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, we'll get there eventually. But some of the ideas of like the atonement of Christ's blood, like some of the ideas that fall behind there are interesting. Like, and just the way people come up with ideas about things, even modern days, like, you called out Andy Stanley on the Old Testament, and my biggest beef is always with Joel Osteen and prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
I don't know how people get that out of the Bible and out of the words of Christ and whatnot. But anyways, so that's mine. So
okay.
All right, those were my pushbacks. Sorry, I was really trying. Like, I was really like.
Wait till I get the pushback.
Yeah, you always push back. You're good at that. I'm not so much on that.
So this next segment is called Digging Deeper.
Yep.
And I don't quite know the meaning behind this segment, but I do know this is something that I wanted to spend a little bit extra time on that I didn't get to spend on in the sermon. It made it in the sermon, but not to the fullness of what I wanted to make in the sermon. And this is perhaps my favorite verse in the Bible, John 1:14.
Okay.
If you want to read it, or I can read it, but he came basically. Yeah, I don't want to read it. I mean,
You want me to read it?
Well, I can read it.
I got it.
I want to read it exactly how it's written in my
And
version.
that's fine. I know we use different translations.
Mine's the right one. Okay. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Earlier, I talked about the word dwell, but this time I want to focus on that phrase, grace and truth. And I wish I would have, not wish, this wasn't the sermon to spend time on that, but that whole balance of Christ came perfectly balanced with grace and truth, and how as a people we side one way or the other. Like we're either more grace led or more truth led, right? And we've been around people like that.
For sure.
And if you're more grace without truth, everything gets affirmed, everything's lovey-dovey, sin becomes optional. Truth without grace, people become projects, church becomes exhausting, nobody feels safe. But neither one of those is love. And that's where Christ comes, and he is equal balance of both, which I think is so perfect. And we see this in two stories specifically I wanted to talk about. First John chapter 4. This is where they're going for a long walk. He's thirsty. He sits down at a well because he's thirsty. A woman comes to get water at noon, which I found the story. So she comes at noon, which she shouldn't be out at noon because
Correct.
she come to get water in the morning. So that means she's shunned from her people. She's embarrassed of her lifestyle, the whole thing. And so then he talks to her. Right now, man and woman don't ever talk back then, culture-wise. So it's already shocking that he's doing that, which speaks to his elevating a woman, but we're not going to go there yet. They have this whole back and forth, and then he builds a relationship with her before he confronts her on her lifestyle, right? But he does bring the truth, but he leads with grace, right?
Right.
Beautiful, beautiful story. And then obviously in John chapter 8, so now there's a crowd. He's teaching. Pharisees bring before him a woman caught in adultery, which is always interesting to me. How did they catch her? Were they watching? Were they waiting? Was it a trap? Were they recording it? What's going on? I mean, how did they get this woman? Right. So they throw this woman before him, whether she was clothed or half clothed, whatever, and embarrassed as all get out, right? This woman can't even look up at Jesus, right? And they confront him with truth, the Torah that he believes, the Torah that he says she should die. That's the Bible says. The Bible says she should die, right? That's the truth.
Right.
So now, is Christ going to go against the truth? What's he going to do? Because that's the truth. The Bible says kill her, right? Obviously, they go back and forth. He writes in the sand, and then he says, whoever's the first to sin, whoever's first, who hasn't sinned, throw the first stone. We know the story. And what I like about the way John writes it is he says, the stones dropped, but it started with the oldest.
Yes, yeah.
And I thought it was so beautiful because wise believers are some of my favorite people because they have some of the best. They get closer to grace and truth than anybody else because they have lived life and they know life isn't black and they know it's not black and white. They know life is gray. And so they drop their stones, and then the young people drop their stones, and they leave. And now here's Christ now alone with this woman, and he picks her up. And I think that's so beautiful. Oh, he gets on her level. He meets her where she's at, and then he elevates her. And then he says, hey, where's everybody at? Does anybody condemn you? He goes, I don't either. And then he says, go sin no more. He doesn't avoid the truth at all. But he also doesn't lead with the truth.
Right.
And so I think for my friends that are truth leaners, they think just standing out there with a picket sign saying God hates fags or whatever and going hard on here's the truth. The truth is the truth. It's your job to deal with it. That's not love, and that's not helpful.
Correct.
And that's not what Christ would do.
Correct.
Now, that doesn't mean we don't say the truth. And I think that to my friends that are the lovers who just say, it's all
Accept
good. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll always get to it, right? And so I think there's a saying I think we've said for a while that truth, you can speak truth, but you have to build a bridge of love to hold it.
Okay.
Like, so you have to speak truth. But you have to, again, have that relationship, build that love, build to do that. And so what side do you lean on? Are you more of a truth person or a love person?
That's a good question. I think it depends. I like to try to fall like John writes, as I've grown older, I feel I've gone more away from leading with truth and more into the grace aspect of things.
So you're a truth leaner then. That's okay.
I feel like in my life today, I'm more on the grace side than I am on the truth side. But like before you with Jeff, he always and taught me well that we have 2 feet, right? We have the foot of truth and the foot of grace, and we should always be leading with the foot of grace. And so I think it's been something that I've tried to put in, and I think I lean more on the grace side too, because I think sometimes the truth side is harder.
Yeah.
For me,
Okay.
I know for some people it's not. Like,
Yeah.
and there are people that I know in my life that truth is the easier thing for them to lead with, and I think for me, truth is the harder thing to lean with. But at the same time, being an elder and being a leader in the church, it's important that the truth aspect exists.
You're an elder?
Yeah.
I've only mentioned that 3 times so far. You're a scientist
But
too?
I am, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
that was
that.
from last season that they knew. But it's hard. It's hard because I think people who lead with grace want to avoid confrontation as much as they can.
Matt.
I think because it's just easier for them to do that, and so it's easy to lead with grace. And I think people who
But it's not. See, I would disagree. It's not easier to lead with grace. It's harder to lead with grace because it's easy to just tell somebody you're a sinner, you're going to hell, and walk away. It's easy to stand out in front of it's easy to stand out in front of an abortion clinic and protest and say, "Oh, you guys are good." You know, that's the hard part is to walk with that woman and to sit with that woman and to know their story and to love them to the place where you're going to now put yourself out to be able to then speak the truth. It's super easy to shout the truth into the air. Anybody can do
You're
that.
right.
And they can feel like
right.
you can feel really good about yourself.
Yep.
I'd ride my bike home and there's always these protests on the road or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's super. Yes, you're right. That's awesome. Great. I'm not trying to condemn that, but I'm saying holding a sign and not doing is not doing the work.
Correct.
That's good for you. Doing the work is sitting across from the person
And having
loving
a
them and
conversation
loving
with
them
them. Yeah.
enough to know their story and to walk with them and to be that's the hard part, and that takes too much work. And so I think where I push back on the truth people is like they feel like they're doing something by shouting these truths, and like, "Oh, I've done my job." Well, you haven't. It's lazy. It's lazy. In my opinion.
And I agree with you because I think that's part of the revelation. You know, and again, studying the Bible more and more. Anytime I hear, like, I love to listen to the Beatles,
Mhm.
and like one of my favorite songs is "All You Need Is Love," and like obviously it's a different, but it's a concept, right? Like because really that's the way the New Testament is set up.
It is now. Now, love though isn't.
It's not the same.
It is not
it's different.
acceptance, and
Correct.
it's not approval. It's not. That's. I think we
We
truth
blur the
people-
line in that.
people put
Correct.
love like, well, if they love, then you're accepting everything, you're approving
Correct.
everything.
But that's not true
love.
because if you really love somebody, like when we love our children or we love our spouse, you know, there's truth that's blended into that.
Yeah.
Like, and I always think about it from a parent's perspective. Like my love for my children also involves me teaching them and making sure that they do the right thing when they should be doing it.
Yeah.
And so if I love anybody else, then it really should be in that same vein. Like, are you doing the right thing? Are you know? And it's hard too because I think the other thing when it comes to truth people is, you know, we want to. I think truth people want to hold everybody accountable to Christian values, and you can't hold it on Christian to Christian values.
No.
But that's where they want to be, and I don't know how. If that's all you ever look at, if all you ever focus in is on the truth, I don't know how you can ever get somebody to come to understand who Christ is and come to accept Christ. Because obviously, in the end, we don't get to make that choice for that person, and we're not necessarily the one. God's ultimately the one that's going to lead that person to Him, but He has us here for a reason to fulfill that mission. And if all we're doing is driving that wedge in between because it's, oh, you're, like you said, you're a sinner because of X or you're a sinner because of Y, like that's the part where I just don't get the truth people.
Yeah, and I would be a couple things. Be a little careful with like with truth people, love people, grace people, whatever. Like the goal is we're going to become more like Christ, and this is where Christ is perfectly balanced of both. So I'm a love person, a grace person first, and so I know that. I've had a friend of mine who helps me write sometimes, and he has reminded me of that. And so as part of my writing process is I have the word truth when I start to write, and I have to intentionally make sure I'm not swayed one way. I have to work because I want to become more like Christ. I want to become, full of both, right? And working towards that. And so I hope people that are listening that are truther folks or love grace people, that they're able to see that we're trying to become more like Christ and work more towards that, and go towards that. I also think that on both sides of it, it's very easy to look at other people and to to judge them as that or this, because it takes the attention of us and our sin and our lives, you know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's easy to say, well, look at that person because of that, and whereas, you know, but by the grace of God, my God, you know, I'm.
What's the whole plank and sawdust, right?
And so yeah, and so recognizing again, the more you get to know Jesus, the more you get to know God, the more you realize how loved you are and how gracious He's been towards you. And my God, how can I not help others see that and work? You know, it overwhelmed me. So yeah, so that's was the digging deeper part. We have dug deeper.
We have, definitely, for sure.
Now the next segment, we call this quick fire questions. Quick fire. Well, yeah, like a sound effect.
Oh, you want sound effects?
No, I don't.
Yeah, okay.
And these are like real quick questions we ask each other. Or you're asking me, I'm asking you.
We can go back and forth. I don't know. We haven't done this before, so we're gonna see how this works out. All right, let's go with this one. What picture of God did you have growing up?
These are quick questions. These are not quick questions.
Was that too
performative? So he was a very I had to earn his love. I had to perform. I had to behave, and then he would be happy with me. And if I didn't do that, he would be very disappointed with me, to the fact that I would probably go to hell. And so everything was a put on the best performance, whether that's being a good son, a good. If I was a volunteer in the church as a teenager, I better do that well. Everything had to be perfect, and if it wasn't, yeah, and a lot of that stems from personal stuff growing up, mom and dad, and all that stuff. But that's where, and again, I don't think the church taught me that. Obviously, not intentionally, not at all. But that's what the message I got was: better behave. If not, God's gonna,
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. What's your favorite title for God?
Oh,
that was my quick question. I even said it quick.
I think the name they use for him, Yahweh. I think, the idea of just Lord and but it's more than Lord. It's bigger. So
cool.
Okay. How about this one? This should be quick. What kid question made you laugh the hardest when you read them the first time?
I have to go back and look at them all. There were a lot. There were a lot that were very funny. They're all very sweet, and so I think that what I loved about them was that they were all asked with a good heart, and so they were funny in that, but they weren't trying to be funny. So I don't know. Oh man, I don't.
It's one of those kids say the darndest things, right? Like they don't intentionally say it. I don't have the list on me either.
That's a great question. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know if one stuck out to you that you would remember.
Oh man, I mean, there's a really neat one that was. I like the one where it's like, if God lives in me, why can't I hear him? Which I think is so beautiful. Oh, so wonderful.
I did like that question a lot.
And there's a cool one about the prodigals. Like, is it okay to be the prodigal son? And I think that's such a beautiful,
that was a good question. Too, yeah.
And that a 2-year-old would ask that is wild. But no, I'm just kidding. A 2-year-old didn't ask that. That would be funny though. Yeah, and then some of the fun ones. Alien did it. I like those are fun questions.
Those are fun questions for sure.
How big was he?
I liked it. Does God have a dog?
Did God have a dog? That
was a good one.
I forgot that one.
That made me laugh.
That was a great question. Yeah. And of course he does.
What do you got?
His name is Fido.
Fido?
Fido the dog. Yeah. Okay. What is one attribute that we ignore about God?
Oh, I had that question too, or something similar to that.
I didn't.
Gosh. Okay, this is gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna say omnipresence. And I don't know that it's ignored, but I don't think it's understood well, because you hear a lot of people pray about God being with us, but God's always with us. You don't need to pray and ask for that, because being omnipresent, he's everywhere, and so he's always with us, or God be with them and stuff like that. And it's asking for God's presence, and I think people just misunderstand it, and that's why. So that's why I would say
cool.
That one.
That's all my quick questions.
Those were all that you had? Okay.
You got more?
Let me go one more. You want me to keep going? No, we're not going to go all day. This is a fun one. Let's see. Well, that's not a quick question. If you could sit down with John for 5 minutes, what's the first question you would ask?
How slow was Peter?
That was my thought. I was actually thinking that just now.
Sorry. Was he really that slow? Or are you just that big of a jerk? You're so full of yourself, you got to write that down.
It's one of the things that is like, why is Jen
How do
always
you-
right? I'm the one that Jesus, the one
How
that
do you-
Jesus loved.
How do you circle pride whenever you write that? Like, don't talk about that sin. Jerk. Yeah, that was good.
I am serious. That was where I thought your mind would go with that
Oh,
one.
thank you.
Because I know mine went that one. All right, I apologize for. Sorry. All right. What's your favorite miracle that Jesus performed?
Oh, I mean, you get real fun, serious here. My life. I mean, the fact that he would call me, use me.
Oh, okay.
That's insane. It's stupid. My
That's
life
fair.
is a mess. And the fact that I'm sitting here in this chair talking to you in this role that I have, it is completely absurd. I should be dead. I should be in jail. I should be a mess. And without his grace and love, I don't. It's unbelievable. And so, yeah, that's for me. And the stuff in the Bible is amazing. Watching him heal eyes and open eyes and heal. I mean, all that stuff's crazy and out there and beautiful. But I mean, what he's done in my own life is, yeah, remarkable.
All right. Well, I think we can leave it there. I've got. We'll have more quick fire questions next time.
Fire. Okay, so we're gonna finish this segment.
Okay,
we're gonna finish every week with a question. Since we're doing a series on questions, with a question we're gonna ask the people who are listening or watching, right? And so, it's just a question for the week that they can focus on and think about. And so the question I came up with this week was: if someone only watched your life, what would they assume God is like? And so, if someone only watched your life, what would they assume God is like? And I think that would be kind of a fun question to sit with in the process. We did have a couple of resources though we want to share with you. Throughout this series, we are sign up for the church's emails because you're going to get a couple emails every week that'll kind of talk about what we're talking about. We also have a daily devotional we put together that comes out in our app every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And so if you haven't downloaded the app yet, download the app. I'll be a part of that. And then you can get access to that. And then obviously the sermon next week kind of continues this. Next week we're going to talk
so
about.
what's this one coming up?
Yeah, what is heaven like?
Oh,
what
nice.
is heaven
Okay.
like? And I can't wait to talk about that. It's going to be a fun sermon. I'm really excited about that. So that's what we got. Not for Sunday morning.
Not for Sunday morning. Well, thank you again for tuning in if you're watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And we'll be back in with you next week. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Keep asking good questions.
Yep.
See you.
All right. See y'all.